I've got another special guest for you guys today. Someone that I know a lot of you have been watching his channel. It's a channel that I watch. I feel like it's got really good advice, something that a lot of men need today. I've got Richard here from Entrepreneurs in Cars, and I think you guys are going to like the conversation we're going to talk about here today. So welcome, Richard.
Hey, John, thanks for having me, man.
So I've been watching your channel, and I think a lot of my audience is watching as well. And I really like, I like what you're doing. I like the topics that you're talking about, and just the general advice that you're giving guys. I feel like more men need to kind of have this advice, and I also like that, that your content is not, almost like hateful. Like it's like yours is practical. So what kind of, like, what's your background? What got you doing this and creating this content?
Yeah, it's interesting that you made that observation. I've heard that a few times from many others as well. I just fell into it. The title of the channel is Entrepreneurs in Cars, and the origin was interview my friends and their success rides that were, just awesome entrepreneurs, but I ran out of friends with cool cars. So I just started doing like tip videos on like just talking head stuff, just looking at the camera and just basically shooting the shit about things like how I hire employees with parties, how I would use lawyers in my business, stuff like that. And then one day some guy came along and said, you should do a video on the kind of women to avoid dating. I guess they just trusted that what I was talking about was, the real deal. And I kind of fell into the whole red pill manosphere. I never really liked that name, manosphere. It sounds kind of silly, when I kind of reflect back on it. But like I kind of, fell into that red pill awareness, if you will, that's that scene from The Matrix where it's like, Morpheus offers Neo, a blue pill and a red pill. And the blue pill, he kind of goes back to sleep and sleepwalks through life and just kind of rejoins society. And red pill is, I'll wake you up and show you how deep, this rabbit hole, kind of goes. And I needed that awakening. Like I was at a time in my life where I wasn't that useful. I wasn't that effective. I was kind of like pissed off at my business. I was pissed off at my customers and my employees. I just didn't like the way that shit was going. It's because I didn't really understand what was happening. It was just like, I was told to believe certain things were true that simply weren't true, that didn't serve me and weren't getting me the results that I want. So I needed to update my beliefs. And that's kind of what led me down the rabbit hole of creating the content that I do now, which is just really helping guys become a better version of themselves. I've built a men's community. It's a brand new chapter for me this year in 2019. It just, continues to evolve and get better for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's really interesting, I think, how different people discover kind of what the red pill is. I think I had kind of been getting pieces, but when I had read Rollo Tomasi's book, The Rational Male, that was when it kind of all came together for me, and I was like, okay, I see what's going on now, and it was a big eye opener for sure.
Yep.
Now, there's a lot of, one thing I want to ask you about is because kind of what I alluded to before was just kind of your thoughts on, I feel like it's weird, like red pill, the definition of it has sort of changed a lot. I think so many people have kind of hijacked the word, and then you've got, you've got kind of black pill and incels, and you've got really hardcore MGTOW guys that are like, okay, fuck all women are, are thoughts and all this. And it's like, and they're all, a lot of them are calling themselves red pill or red pill aware. And I don't know, just curious on what your thoughts are on these kind of, it's almost like factions that are rising up. And
yeah. There's a lot of factions that arise out of people waking up when they take the red pill. Like you mentioned, there's communities of guys that are involuntarily celibate. They don't have any luck with women. Some of them lash out in very bad ways. We saw a guy here in Toronto, I know you're in Canada too, that rented a van last spring and drove over a bunch of people just because he was unhappy with his life and the way that women were responding to him. And those are some of the guys from that community. Not all of them are violent, of course, but when dudes like, if you've had a crappy upbringing and lack of a masculine male role model and you didn't learn the ability to deal with rejection or how to interact with women, then that's one way that you can respond. So it can be, disastrous. And unfortunately, it paints a lot of men in a bad light. And there's the other guys, the MGTOWs, who just kind of see what women can be, and they get upset sometimes from some degree. And the observations are pretty accurate. I mean, the observations a lot of MGTOW make, I would agree with. It's just I don't agree with the solution. I don't think buying a sex doll is a solution to having an intimate relationship with a woman. I mean, you can do it if you operate effectively and you're fully aware of what you're getting into, and you can learn how to appreciate women for what they truly are, not what you always want them to be, sort of thing, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, there's all these different factions, and it's like, my approach is, we've always had interactions with women. We're always going to have interactions with women. It's a very difficult environment for men to operate in today when it comes to women. I feel like the whole talking about women sometimes gets a little bit overblown. It's like,
Yeah.
how many more episodes of how to game your wife or whatever, do you really need, sort of thing? It's like, I think if a lot of guys look more towards themselves and their inner beast and the pursuit of excellence and putting their dent in the universe, their experience with the world, with money, with creation of wealth, with women, in general, will improve dramatically. It's just, you've got to put some boundaries around certain things. And I still think that's an important conversation.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. That's one of the things I've been really focusing on is getting men to learn to just develop themselves, and then just kind of a lot of the other things fall in line. And I'm in agreement with you too on the MGTOW. Like their observations are pretty accurate, but the solution is not one that I like. I'm more of a kind of just accept it. Like I want the truth so I can accept the truth.
Yeah.
And then now I have this reality. Now, what am I going to do? To me, there's no maliciousness. To me, it's like just a force of nature, just like any other force of nature. And it's the course of evolution and social evolution. And, I'm not going to change the world, but I can help a few guys along the way. So.
Yeah, well, I've seen you do the work too. Like I think it was on your website or somewhere where I saw an old picture post of you. You're kind of like a fat dork with a big afro.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's like you've done the work. You changed your diet. You went to the gym. You got style to work for. You got clothes that fit you properly. You got a haircut, sort of thing, right? You kind of created a look for yourself. And I think that all guys, if you want to become the best version of yourself, you got to do the work on yourself. Like you can't point and sputter at the world and say, oh, the thing that's annoying about some of the MGTOW stuff, it's like, how many more episodes of like 307 episodes of Why Bitches Ain't Shit But Hoes and Tricks do we need to watch?
Right.
Like there's more to the world than just pointing and sputtering, right? Like look within yourself and do the work on yourself too, right?
Yeah, it's almost kind of the equivalent of like, the liberal kind of propaganda where they're like trying to it's almost the opposite now. It's like of the feminist movement where it's like we want to change men or we want to change the world because it's not fair. And it's like almost the same thing. And that's the thing that's really just blown me away is it's the same answer. It's like we want to change the world, and it's almost even on the same thing. I think what I've been seeing too is like now men want women to act like men. Like women are always going to be women. They're always going to be more emotional. They're always going to do this kind of stuff. It's built in their biology. But when men are like, oh, we need to hold them accountable to the same standard that a man does. Well, I mean, shit.
They're women.
Exactly.
Women don't get the same standards as men, just like men don't get the same standards as women. Like we are different. We are born biologically different.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, good. That's The other piece, I think is, and it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that because I try to the worst though I think to listen because there's a lot of these echo chambers, but I think the worst is with the, like you said, the incels and the black pill guys that are just so, and I tried, I'm like, well, guys, look, I know what it was like to be on the other side. I know what it's like to be on one side, and a little bit of working on yourself and a little bit of game, and
like what is the black pill? Like how do you actually define that? Because that's a term that I've heard the last year, and I've come to understand that it's like a nihilistic view of the way that certain things are.
So essentially, my understanding of the black pill stuff is basically, they put like the category of like the red pill, blue pill, and black pill being at the top, being the most harshest reality, which is that it's only looks that matter, that only attractiveness is the only quality that women care about, and that there's no such thing as game. It's just an illusion. It's bullshit. And that confidence, none of that, none of those things matter. They only want the chads, 9, 8, 10 9s and 8s of guys. And if you're below that, you're pretty much screwed. So that's kind of the whole, and then they go into all kinds of stuff of like looks maxing and trying to improve their jawlines and shit, thinking that that's the only thing that matters.
It's not. It certainly matters. I mean, the optics of attraction matter. I mean, that's what dating apps are like primarily based on. I mean, when you're swiping, you're not swiping on reading a bio. I mean, like 99% of the time, it's the first picture. It's you make a choice within the first like half a second. You swipe left or right. I mean, that's what men and women do. Like I've watched women do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's always based on the optics, but at the end of the day, I mean, you know, there's only so much you can do. Like you can have a look, right? Like there's some people that like this shit, you know, like there's some women that like shaved head, beard. They're like, it drives them absolutely crazy. Like they love it. There's other women that are just like, I want nothing to do with it. Okay, cool. Whatever, you know, like have a look and own it.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. And I mean, the thing is like, you know, the piece that I've always fought them on, like I know a lot of guys on YouTube that are in the, you know, the pickup community, and I've watched them operate, and I've seen some really not good looking guys. But the thing is, like, they're going out into the real world and talking. It's a lot different on Tinder when you're just putting yourself up to one dimensional aspect of yourself. It's just your basically your facial aesthetics for the most part. But when you go into the real world, there's a lot more dimension. And in fact, I think most guys would realize the same thing. There's always girls that you see their picture and you're like, oh damn, she's hot, and then you meet her in person, and there's something that just,
That's true.
you know, it's some of its facial expressions and how she moves and how she talks and just her presence. Like you kind of, as a human being, you can't really separate what is visually, cognitively like attractive to you from the whole package when you see the whole thing. You
Yeah,
think it's visual.
well, women are like masters of being the chameleon, right? You know,
Yeah.
they know how to increase their sexual marketplace value with good lighting, good filters, right? Like photography angles, cropping out, you know, push-up bras, like certain things, right? Like they know how to really put out the right optics to increase their SMV. Because most guys' complaints, you know, when they meet women off dating sites as well, it didn't really look like her, you know, like, you know, picture maybe older or you know, she hid something in it, sort of thing. And most guys, if you look at their dating profiles, like even in my men's community, like these guys will share their profiles from time to time just to get feedback, sort of thing. And it's like, guys don't know the first thing about putting themselves out there and,
Oh yeah.
you know, style and getting
Yeah.
a decent haircut, or at least shaving your head if you got a bad fucking haircut, or, you know, the right clothing or the right lighting. And you can really bump yourself up like 2 to 3 points quite easily by just doing some work on yourself. Right. I mean, like, you don't have to, you know, go like full on black pill and say, oh, you know, there's no hope for me. I mean, yeah, okay, well, maybe there's no hope for like you getting with Jennifer Aniston or, you know, whoever your crush is, but there's still like a lot of women out there that would dig your vibe if you put yourself out there. And still, like, that should not be the priority. Like, women should not be put on the pedestal. Put yourself on the damn pedestal. Be the prize yourself first, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I totally agree. It all comes down to, I mean, if you're seeking that external validation, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can get it, but it's not going to fill it because it's not going to matter because there's
Well,
never enough. You know,
well, that's a big argument that a lot of the MGTOWs make is, oh, you're seeking external validation. You know, you're what's the other lyric that they use? Oh, they call you like a pussy beggar or something like that. You know, like you're doing all this work for women, sort of thing. It's kind of like the point of being on the planet, right? Like we're here to scatter seed, right? Like
exactly.
the male sexual strategy is unlimited access to unlimited women. The female sexual strategy is open hypergamy, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. But you know, again, I think that a lot of, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of guys haven't gone through it. They haven't seen, you know, when you've been on both sides of it, you kind of realize that it's actually not that important. Like you can get it, sure. Okay, now what? Like, because even if you had unlimited access to all the women that you want, I think a lot of these guys don't realize that that would not be the dream life. So you would then have to figure out what you're going to actually do as a man in this world and what your actual purpose is going to be. That's still a question you must answer.
Yeah, your dent in the universe. It's kind of like the top of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Exactly. So what kind of things do you see like as the main issues that most men are most men I'd say face today that they're kind of unaware of, and you know, kind of some of the key things that you've been kind of discovering with your community and the guys that you serve?
Boils down to some major components. There's probably at least 7 or 8. I mean, I'm actually building out a course right now that's going to have modules built into it. But at the end of the day, I think that guys are incredibly bad at recognizing the common denominator, which is looking at themselves in the mirror and taking ownership for where they are at their life. I mean, you know, it's really simple. I mean, if you look at the results you get out of life and they suck, it's because you make bad choices, and your bad choices come from a broken belief system. And all you really have to do is update your beliefs to make better choices to get different results. It's like you have these 3 doors, right? Like there's a green door, there's a yellow door, and there's a red door. And if your choice is, one of these three doors, you walk through it. If you go through the green door, something good's going to happen. You're going to level up slightly. But if you make a bad choice and you go through the red door, something bad's going to happen. It's obviously, going to have a detraction or a negative impact on your life. It's just being self-aware of what you're doing and working on improving those things. And some guys don't want to do the work. I mean, other guys are willing to do the work. I exclusively talk to the men that want to do the work, of course.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. I agree. I think that's the whole kind of the victim mindset versus the, taking responsibility. What I call the bulldog mindset on this channel is that idea that you're responsible for your own actions, like you're where you are in life. Whether you feel like there's outside circumstances or not. I take a very stoic kind of philosophy approach to life.
Yeah, I agree.
So, one thing I also want to ask you about too is some books. Like, what are the books that have really like impacted you? I'm a pretty big reader myself. I see you've got Jack Donovan's Way of Man, excellent book there on your shelf there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I've got a recommended reading list on my channel. I've got like my top 7 books that I put together a couple years ago. I probably need to update it a little bit more, but certainly Rational Male Volume 1 is a profound read. Volume 2 is also very good. Minimum those 2 books from Rollo Tomasi. I like The Tactical Guide to Women by Sean T. Smith. I do a show on my channel on Monday nights. It's kind of like a call-in show. We call it Before the Train Wreck, and our aims really try to hit guys before they destroy their lives. Like, they can vet sort of like red flag sort of thing. And, his clinical practice really focused on that. So I really like that. I really like Jack Donovan's writing. He's a good friend, a solid dude, really understands masculinity and tribalism. He's got at least 3 or 4 books out on Amazon. There's a few, like those would be the major ones to name them. Like books like Sapiens is a great book. Like I just finished that last month, and that was kind of like a peek into our position on the planet. Like we've only been around for 70,000 years as Homo sapiens, sort of thing. And we've had a major impact on reshaping the surface of the earth and the way that we behave. And it's like, we're like a fucking cancer, to the planet. Like, we've put a big dent on this rock flying around the sun. And the way we get things done and the reasons why we're so successful simply because of the notion that we're very good at gossip and mobilizing ideas altogether, whether it comes to politics, subscribing to the notion of money having a certain amount of value, religious beliefs. That's another really cool read too, is Sapiens.
Okay, yeah, I read that one. I'm trying to think, maybe like a year or 2 ago. I wasn't the hugest fan of it. I felt like I didn't like the entirety of the blame of it on. I feel like it's more of like it's just kind of the way like things happen in nature, and if we're gonna say that we're evolved, then we are kind of part of that process, and the things that we do is kind of, there's a social evolution as well. But I can see the point too, is like, I mean, but yeah, it is definitely impactful. Like we're the most impactful species for sure on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was going to ask about your kind of background, just where, kind of, I don't know if you want to share this kind of information, but I was just curious about your background, like business wise, entrepreneurial stuff. I know there's a lot of people. Yeah.
I've been deeply involved in, I guess, business since I was 30. I'm 45 now, so at least 15 years. I had a few businesses when I was a teenager, as well. I used to, like contract out paper routes and like a mobile car washing service and things like that when I was a lot younger. But I got into the corporate world after school, and I worked for people, and I lined their pockets with gold, and I watched all the red tape unfold, and I realized that wasn't for me. So I took a package when I was 30, and I kind of went home like 2 weeks after I bought my first house, and I had to figure out how to make shit happen. And that's like, that's like pretty profound, when you've got a mortgage and they only give you like a few $1,000s to walk from the business, like you got to figure things out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that really pushes you towards that goal and that excellence and that desire, like that demand, like that need, sort of thing. So, I've been in it for 15 years. I've created a lot of businesses. Some of them failed. Some of them have really done quite well. I'm lucky to have a great network of people that I can consider great friends that I've met over the years in the entrepreneur, community. They've done great things. There's a lot of guys out there that I know, and a handful of women as well. I mean, the community is mostly populated by men anyway, but they're putting a dent in the universe. Like, they're having an impact in the world. They're actually affecting change. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's good. It's it's almost essential to have people that you can rely on, like to have a network, to have, I've rarely, I don't think I've ever met an entrepreneur that didn't in some way have either a group of people to rely on to help him
Tribe,
to,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just so hard to make it on your own. I think a lot of guys that want to become entrepreneurs don't realize what the path is. I mean, it's a path that I would never not take in life after knowing what I know. But
Well, it's very difficult. It's lonely. You get criticized by your family and friends, especially like, why don't you just get a job, sort of thing. And it's like, no, I know this is going to work. Like, I'm going to buckle down and double down on it. Like, I know I can get this off the ground. Right. And some guys, they just colossally, destroy it. And it's like,
yeah,
some people you actually need to tell them, like, we need to beat this with a stick, kill it and bury it 6 feet under and just be done with it. Cause it's not,
yeah,
it's not going to work. Right.
yeah,
There's some people that are not really suited for it, or they're not suited for the idea of being open to pivoting their model. Like, a lot of business models need to pivot as they kind of like mature and move along through time. And that's something that I do, I don't know, still do quite a bit of. I mean, it's not my primary coaching. Most of my coaching kind of circles around men kind of dealing with the sexual marketplace, but I still do some coaching with guys, with their businesses too. There's, it's always good to get a sober second thinker kind of like pointing at some potential things sitting in your blind spots when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Like, you've got to have a tribe of people. Definitely have to have a tribe of people. It doesn't matter where you find it, but it needs to exist.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have a long-standing group we've been around for like I think 5 years now, called Entre Programmers, because I was a developer when I started becoming
Yeah,
an entrepreneur. And we do like a weekly mastermind call, and we've turned it into a podcast. But we've been doing that for like 5 years, and
that's
I
cool.
I'm sure I would have given up had I not had these guys to rely on. So,
Mhm.
but one thing I was going to ask you about, and I remember what it was, is I was going to ask you about, because you talked a lot about improving yourself, and, that the kind of pathway to improvement. I'm really big on that idea for men. What areas, like what kind of things do you think that are kind of essential for a man to focus on in his life to get this shit straight, basically?
Um, yeah, it's almost like the spokes in the wheel that Zig Ziglar talked about in one of his, earlier books. Um, your circle of influence, the 5 people you spend the most time with, obviously, the things that you do to create wealth, uh, the women that you let into your life, and, how you're going to interact with them, your spirit, whether that ties into your own spirit, religious beliefs, whatever that might look like for you, whatever your beliefs are. Self-care, of course, is very important. Family is very important. You got to have a balanced approach. I think, there's some places that spend far too much on one area. We
Hmm.
talked early on about, red pill in the manosphere. And, I've come to realize that it feels like there's too much conversation going around chasing tail there.
Yeah,
And if there's a little more focus put on the pursuit of excellence in yourself, while understanding, the sexual marketplace, and while understanding women, while understanding the risks of dealing with certain things like marriage in today's world, for example, you can level up quite well. So yeah, that's an important, component. Is a lot more balance in my view.
yeah, no, okay, I agree. I just heard someone, who was it? I think he goes by LFA. He said something like, "Women want champions, men, compete for championships." And I
Well,
thought that was good.
how okay are you with swearing on this broadcast? Because I know I've
Oh,
dropped a couple of bombs.
swear as much as you fucking want.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I mean, the way that it really is, and I like LFA. I think he's got some good observations. I think he's kind of like an ex MGTOW that's sort of kind of waking up a little bit.
Yep.
But my estimation on it is that women hang out at the finish line and they fuck the winners. They don't care about the struggle.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
100%. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But there's only one way to become the winner, I think, and that's
Do the
to,
work. You have to start competing.
exactly.
You have to start, racking up some wins. I had a sponsored request that I just finished recording before we hopped on this call, and this guy was like, he's had no wins in his life, and he's a 24-year-old virgin, and he wants to interact with women. He loves women. He thinks that they're hot. He just wants to be with them, but he doesn't know how, and he doesn't know how to compete. He doesn't know how to make the approach. But he's saying, well, I think I'm going to do like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. All right, do that. Compete. Get your ass kicked by some people.
Yeah.
Learn the skill, learn the craft, start kicking the ass of other people. And each successive win will build confidence. It'll actually boost your testosterone, right? There's a lot of studies that show that competing and winning will increase your testosterone levels, right? So guys need to compete. If you're
Yeah.
going to you know, if you're going to be uncompetitive and disconnect from the sexual marketplace, like that's one of the areas that I think that MGTOWs are letting themselves down on, is when they buy a sex doll and they stay away from women completely. It's like, you're not competing. Like, you're basically just throwing up your hands and going, that's not worth it.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of times it is just kind of a cop out answer of like, because I've, you know, I've coached a few of these guys on both of the black pill and the incel and the MGTOW. And it's been very much like, okay, well, what have you done? And I'm like, and I have a checklist. I'm like, well, okay, did you go to the gym? Did you lift weights? Did you develop your
Mhm.
physique to the maximum that you can? So you're at least like a 9 out of 10 physique? No.
Well, that's
Did
my
you?
favorite question to ask somebody, is when they're struggling with things in life, is I'll always say to them, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst version of you and 10 being the best version of you. I'm not saying compare yourself to like Elon Musk, you know, for example, or Richard
Right.
Branson or whatever, but, you know, with 10 being your best version of you, where do you place yourself on a scale? And more often than not, you know, these guys that are struggling in areas of their life, like they're putting themselves at a 4, 5, 6.
Right.
Like, dude, you got lots of room to go up there, right? And like, a lot more of the effort that you're throwing at how do I get girls to respond back to me when I send a text should go into how do I pursue excellence and put my dent in the universe, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yep. I totally agree. And then, you know, and the question is like, because it's almost like, where do you rate yourself on the scale from 1 to 10? And then where do you rate the effort that you've put in? Right. Because I mean, there's a huge difference between like, oh, I rate myself a 6, but I've put in a 10 effort. Okay, well, you know, maybe we don't have much leverage in that area, but most of it, it's like you're giving up before you've even. I mean, if I'm in
Well,
that
it
mentality,
brings you
I'm
right back to
yeah.
that statement. Women don't care about the struggle. They hang out at the
Hmm.
finish line and they fuck the winners. They don't care about the struggle. They don't care if you made a 10 effort and came in like fourth place,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Hopefully you learn from not winning at that endeavor and you'll course correct and improve next time. But like, you know, they don't care that you made the effort. It doesn't matter.
No, no. There's just always so much of a huge potential. I think that guys are giving up way too early without actually putting in the actual effort to be that's required, right?
Yeah.
And then I really liked also what in Jack Donovan in the Way of Man, where he was talking about. I mean, that really kind of opened up my eyes to this whole idea. Is it's like it doesn't really matter. Like he kind of took the women component out of it, and he's like, okay, it's like men are doing things to win the approval of other men, right? To in the man hierarchy, and then women are attracted to the men that are winning that. It's
Correct.
not a matter of winning the women; it's a matter of where do you stand in the hierarchy of men, and it's always been that, and that's I
Yeah.
think that's a
He
big
he speaks nothing of game, picking up women, pickup
no,
artistry, none of those things. And he likes women. I mean, like, there's a lot of people that are confused about his sexuality. Like, he definitely likes women. Like, I know him well. It's just like, you know, let's talk about masculinity. Like, let's talk about what happens when the shit hits the fan. What do? You define a perimeter. Who's on the outside and who's on the inside and who's in your tribe, you know, sort of thing. Like, let's talk about those things.
yeah. That that's and that makes a lot of sense because again, there's like this whole like altruistic, like you can't care about the whole world, like you care about your tribe, and we're built that way, and we don't have the ability to process to understand what's going on in all the world and feel sympathy for it. It's like no, I fight and I protect my
Totally
and
agree. Yeah.
it kind of takes also the morality out of it too, because it's like, well, the moral right is that my tribe survives and wins, however that has to happen. And that's really, I mean, you know, I think there's like this whole thing with the toxic masculinity, and it's like no, honestly, there's like masculinity isn't a good or bad force, it is a force. And you know, it comes with what you would call positive attributes and what society might deem as negative attributes, but they're two sides to the same coin. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, you know, masculinity sure comes in handy when there's a hurricane and there's a flood and you need rescue workers to rescue people off roofs, or there's a fire or a war. You
Right.
know, masculinity sure comes in handy then, but any other time it's toxic.
Exactly. Oh, what did you think, by the way, of that whole of the well, now that we've got the Gillette commercial and then we've got the whole Captain Marvel thing going on now. What do you think
Uh,
about these topics?
you know, it's this bizarre Hollywood agenda to try to be more inclusive and, you know,
Yeah.
globalist when it comes to everything, and it's just, you know, it's sending messages where it's feminizing more men and it's masculizing more women, and that's not how we function well as a society, you know. You know, women want to be with a giant. They want to look up to a man, you know, chasing
Yeah.
excellence, you know, a man of vision. You know, that's what they want. They don't want to be the superhero themselves, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, toxic feminism tells women, well, you be the superhero, so let's make a movie about it. And we'll have Captain Marvel as this headlining woman that's got all the powers in the world, sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm definitely not gonna watch it in the theaters. Like, I didn't care about the fact that she said this shit. Like, that doesn't. It's not gonna affect whether I watch. I'm not gonna boycott a movie thinking that I'm actually making a difference when I know it doesn't fucking matter. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the positioning because it doesn't. I think that's the other thing. I mean, as much as you know, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. As much as men have it difficult today in that there's not very many masculine role models. They don't know how to become men. I mean, honestly, I would say that I didn't really feel like I became a man until my 30s. Like I had, you know, I think, you know, other cultures, it's been a rite of initiation, but I had to kind of figure this shit out. And but women have it pretty bad in the sense that there's almost no one, like, even, you know, we can define masculinity, I think fairly well. Like, a lot of guys kind of can get a handle on that, but femininity is something that I feel like no one's teaching. Women aren't even aware of what it is. If you ask the average woman, you know, what is masculinity, she could probably give you a decent idea. But if you ask
Mm.
her what is femininity, she would be clueless. I mean, most men would be clueless. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
well, it's just the way the you know it's just the way of the messaging right now. I mean, you know, the mainstream media, which still has pretty much most of the airtime. I mean, like Facebook is kind of, you know, starting to monopolize that. YouTube, as we kind of have these conversations, starts to take some eyeballs away from the mainstream media. But I mean, like, their narrative still remains, um, you know, girl, you can, you know, you can do anything a man can do, but you can do it better, sort of thing, right?
Right.
But you know, and then you flip the coin, and then women go through the divorce machine, and they take all of his shit and the kids, and all the money flows to them, and he's living in the basement. Well, if you can do it all and you don't need a man, then why is he divorce raped, living in his parents' basement, sort of thing, right? So it's like, you know, this like message of, you know, to my estimation, it's toxic femininity.
Mm.
It's like feminism isn't pro women, it's anti femininity. It's not,
Right.
you know,
That's the
make
problem.
women better. It's like turn women into men. And who the hell wants that? I don't want to be with a short haired, you know, dyed fat chick that's like unattractive. Like, that's not feminine to me. Like, I'm not attracted to that. I don't want to reproduce with that. I don't want to be intimate with that. I mean, no man does,
Right.
right? How to be an attractive woman? Well, you're feminine. You know, you have nice long hair. You take care of yourself. You know, you dress well. You know how to put on makeup. You respect and value men, sort of thing. But it, it's just a constant pounding into women's head, like, you don't need a man, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard to overcome, and that's why I think. I mean, it is like a tragedy. I think on that side of the equation too,
Well, we're
because
complementary, right? Like, men
yeah,
and women, when allowed to function in our natural state, which has been removed from us practically, or it's in the process of being removed from society, we function quite well, you
right.
know, if we're allowed to complement each other. But if, you know, if it keeps going at this rate, you know, toxic feminism's, it's a supremacist movement. It's there to destroy men. It's, you know, Me Too, you know, believe all women, even if you don't have any evidence and it was 20 years ago, you know, AKA the Kavanaugh hearing, right?
Right.
You know, stuff like that. So I mean, like, we've seen lots of evidence over the last couple of years where men have been demonized. You know, all masculinity is toxic. You know, there was a bus shelter picture. I shared it on Instagram the other day that was taken, I think, in Sheffield or somewhere in England. And the sign was a picture of like a muscular dude, you know, with a caption that said, "All men are dangerous," or something like that.
Right. Well, I agree with that.
Well, you
We
should
all
be
have,
dangerous as a
yeah,
man, but
exactly.
I mean, the message they're saying is
Yeah.
basically is all men are essentially rapists. You know, without saying all
Right.
men are rapists, right?
Exactly. But that's, I mean, again, that's one of those things that should be, it's a power that should be respected, and men will restrain each other if necessary. Like, there's no guy that's going to watch, you know, no true man that's going to watch another man committing a sexual crime or something like that
Correct.
against a woman or an innocent is going to just stand by and not
Correct.
do anything. That's,
Yeah. But I mean,
but
there's lots of social experiments that they've done where they've had women beat the crap out of men publicly on video to see what would happen, and nobody steps in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, it's true. It's true. And then I think the solution for that is more of of like you said, is that women need to stop trying to be men. That the whole femininity is disappearing. It's gone. It's seen as weakness.
Yeah, I don't see it turning around either. I think it's just, I think it's going to continue on this trajectory. It's just going this way too fast, and I don't know where it's going to stop or end. But it just seems to have tons of steam behind it, just picking up more.
Well, I have seen, the thing I guess that I would say to that is that I have seen a backlash now. I think it's getting played out. I just did a video on the Captain Marvel thing,
Mhm.
and my main point was like, okay, after the Me Too, after the Kavanaugh, after the Gillette commercial, and all this shit, it's kind of like white men are kind of saying, you know what? At first, when you guys, said this, we kind of took it. We were like, okay, well, maybe we should check ourselves a little bit or be a little cautious. But after all of this, after the blatant racism and sexism against white men, we're just like, fuck it. You know what? Fuck you guys. I don't even care anymore. It doesn't even phase me. I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want. Like it's like it's crying wolf so many times. So I think there's more guys that are just like that were kind of in the middle, that were kind of like very beta, blue pilled, that are kind of saying, well, wait a minute. This is like, I'm tired of being attacked. I'm going to start to move in this direction. Not that that's going to necessarily change all of society, but I think there's a backlash anytime that there's a severe, anytime some party wins, the other party grows, to fight them. So
Yeah, yeah. Read The Way of Men by Jack Donovan. It talks a lot about building tribes and masculinity. It's a good book.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, and go check out Richard's channel, Entrepreneurs in Cars. We'll put a link. I'll put like in the cards. I'll put a link in the description, and go check out his group. This is something that I think is really beneficial to you guys. I took a look at it, and just you need to have, if you're a man, and I'm sure Richard would agree, is that you need to have other men that you're associating with. We're too much in isolation, and when you're, and even in the real world too, I think, to hang out and to do manly things, and it sounds cliche, but it makes a difference, because there's something that biologically happens when you, and you have to have that camaraderie, and a lot of things, I think, a lot of the kind of companionship that I think, that guys are seeking in women is really, they're actually going to find it in men, in bonding with other men, where they can actually share things that you shouldn't
100%.
be sharing with women, right? It's like a lot of guys want to share all this shit with women, but they don't want to hear about your weakness.
Yeah, they don't want to like hear you emote and cry on their shoulders, right? That's not what's going to turn women on, right? So yeah, to your point, I created the men's community so guys can get behind a paywall that I put up, essentially, which is really like, part of the vetting process. Like if you're serious about doing something about yourself, then you'll pay $25 a month, to access to stuff. And I put all my premium content there, like videos that I don't upload to YouTube that deal with deeper topics. Like there's easily 24 videos in there now. I mean, I've got videos dealing with, specific topics like why women mate switch, which is also known as monkey branching. How to build an effective online dating profile. So stuff like that really help them level up. There's self-care videos in there. We talk about getting to your first $1 million, because I totally support men chasing excellence. And it's not, along the lines of just being rich and being wealthy, but putting a dent in your world to the fact where you have options, because money creates options for men. So I think all men should be millionaires by the time they're 40. If they've done the work, it should be easy for you. So there's stuff like that we talk about, behind the scenes there.
Awesome. Yeah. So guys, go check it out. Go join up, and start getting your shit together. Stop it with the 4s and 5s in the areas of your life. You need to get those up to at least a fucking 8, hopefully a 9 or higher. But
yeah.
Cool. All right. Oh,
Thanks,
one
John.
thing I was going to mention real quick.
Yep.
I see that you've got yours back there, but
You got
yeah, these guys are pretty awesome. So guys, you can check that out too. I'll put a link in the description with a 10% off. But I've been liking it. I've been, I get a lot of comments like, oh, what does pheromones work? And to me, it's like I think that they do, but it doesn't matter, because you're gonna take a shower anyway. So why? Might as well do it.
Scott's an awesome dude. You can see my bars of soap up on my shelf. He's been a sponsor on my channel too for a long time. And even if you set aside the pheromone infused, component of it, it's a high quality product that won't mess up your endocrine system like a lot of cheap soaps do out there. And he's not kicking, masculinity in the Johnson like Gillette did, sort of thing. It's a, hey, I really like guys. And, if you like seeing creation like this, like on John's channel, you know, for example, with Bulldog Mindset, support him, you know, buy some
Yeah.
soap. You're showering anyways, right? Why not?
Exactly. Awesome. All right, Richard. Well, awesome.
Yeah,
It's I like what you're doing, and keep doing it. And you know, you ever need anything I can help you out, just let me know.
you got it. Thanks, brother.
All right, take care.
All right.